there is a way in which we can bring all these tasks and all these players, from providers to payers to even end users together. So what you don't see also in my abstract is the following. A bit about me as a person. I like people to get to know each other. We can talk about this later, but I'm happily married for 6 years. I have a daughter, 1 year old. She just turned 1 yesterday, well, last week basically, but we had her party yesterday. I'm very active, and I'll tell you why that's relevant now, because I have a shoulder injury that I'm going to use as an example. And yeah, I like hiking, and I like basically life. So, when I show you this, what does it remind you of, right? Nokia was one of those big players out there, and it was the benchmark when it comes to telco and devices there. But now I don't hear much about Nokia. I mean, I know Nokia are doing other things, so I want to be fair to them now. They're trying to focus on their core businesses, but when it comes to phones, we don't hear of Nokia. Blockbuster. Like, it's used to be one of the largest companies in the US, right? It's, for those who don't know it, it's you rent videos and you take them home. And now, what do we have? I think most of us here use Netflix, most likely, right? Well, and what's interesting about this example is that not only you don't watch, you don't go rent videos, but even Netflix is transforming the whole value chain when it comes to seeing movies or entertainment, so to speak. They're going into production, right? Now you see series and movies made by Netflix. So they didn't only disrupt this part of the business, they're actually going across the value chain. The Kodak moment. This is one of my favorite examples. I mean, and it's actually sad, but it's also good for many reasons, right? I mean, if we look at camera sales, so what happened? This is the blue line actually there. It's missing the legend there. The blue line is actually digital camera sales, and analog is the red line. And around the year 2000, and I'll explain to you why this was the biggest drop in analog sales, but I think the graphs talk for themselves. So what happened around 1995? Actually, I don't know how many of you know this. There is a guy called Steve Sanson, if I'm not mistaken. And Steve was an engineer at Kodak, and he invented the digital camera. So actually, Kodak was the first to invent digital cameras. Unfortunately, like many of us in big corporate, we are very slow, and they didn't necessarily believe in digital camera. And some actually told him, you know what, you're going to cannibalize our sales with digital cameras. We don't want to talk about digital cameras. And so the poor guy invented the thing, it never made it to market, and it stayed, basically they had the patent, and this is why it took until 2000, 2005 for things to pick up, because then other companies could take the patent and start producing digital cameras. And the rest is history. I mean, look at the numbers, it's a very ugly picture. Employees, stock prices just plummeting down to zero. Why am I telling you all of this? Before I talk about this, I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes for a second and imagine with me the following scenario. You woke up this morning, you went into the shower, and then something scans your body. You get out of the shower, you go to the mirror, you want to shave or prepare, and then you see on the screen or on the mirror your HbA1c level, your blood results, your pressure, all your vitals. And then, an Alexa or a Google or a Siri tells you, well, you didn't have a great sleep last night, it seems. Well, you need probably to get some vitamins. Shall I order some for you? And then it sends an automatic request to the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy delivers it to you through a drone that comes to your home, to your doorstep, and then you have basically your vitamins for the day. And you know your health and you know everything about yourself. This scenario that I just described is not science fiction, except for the part where maybe you're scanned when you enter the shower. shower. That technology doesn't exist today, but everything else exists. And everything else can be implemented today. So we have 3D printing. We can 3D print organs. We have the deliveries going with drones. You know Amazon is going all over that. And you know Amazon is entering the healthcare space, right? They acquired CVS. They're making I'm willing to bet that Amazon is going to be a much bigger player in healthcare than we think they are. We know the Uber and the Uber disruption. Google. Google, Alphabet, right? They hit it on hit it. It's under Alphabet, but under Alphabet you have Google, but you also have Verily, and you have many, many other healthcare companies that they're playing. So Google is really going to be the next one to watch in the healthcare space, right? Data. We were just talking about this in the panel. Data is everywhere, and who's the best at doing this? Google, right? So Apple is also there. I mean, there's no shortage of examples. Why am I saying all of this? What I'm saying is, we see, Nokia and the smartphones coming, Kodak digital photography, Blockbuster online streaming, taxis, Uber and Co. And we're bound to think, who's next, right? We're next. Healthcare is next, frankly speaking. There's nothing holding anyone back from actually entering this space. And as an angel investor in small, startups, I can tell you the amount of startups that are addressing healthcare and that are really touching very difficult topics that we think are very hard to tackle, like diabetes, for example. I mean, these guys are really doing a great job, and at a fraction of the cost that we big corporates are putting into this. And guess what? Governments and payers, they like that. I mean, if I ask you, they like that. Why? It's cheap, it's provable, it's scalable, they can test it, right? We have all these incubators and accelerators that the government here is participating in, right? You hear the DHA there, you hear the RTA, they're experimenting. And maybe now we don't have like these major results, but soon you will. And what does it say to all of us? It says that we need to change. We need to be part of the winners. We cannot be, a victim of disruption. And this is where value-based healthcare. I agree with Dr. Michal. That technology and data is going to drive a lot of this, but I don't think it replaces things. It's actually a catalyst towards value-based healthcare. And maybe value-based healthcare is not the answer to all our solutions. Maybe value-based healthcare is just one of these possible solutions, but it's the only thing, it's the first thing that is bringing us together as, companies and payers and hospitals and providers. What we see as a common thing among all these companies and all the disruptions that happen to all these industries is that the new entrants, they followed the value. So what does that mean, right? They looked at what the customer is looking for, and they provided that value. And this is what we need to be doing in healthcare. We also, I remember also in the panel, this was mentioned. At some point in the panel, we said, well, what is value-based healthcare and what is the outcome that the patient is looking for? That's true. It might not be, the HbA1c level that we think is the only thing that the patient is looking for. They're looking for other things. They might be looking at, if I'm a child and I'm going to school, I'm looking at the ability to be at school without any of my, classmates figuring out that I have something. I want to have a normal life. I want to be part of the class. I don't want to have to go out of the class to get an injection or whatever it is. So value and outcomes and all that is very specific to individuals. And what these guys we saw before did very well is they actually touched exactly on that need and they delivered on that need. And let's face it, we use them, right? The delivery example, I love that example, right? That it's not the restaurant that holds down the value. It's actually the delivery. It's the Deliveroo and the Uber Eats. True, because we as users find it much more convenient for us. And we are the end customer at the end of the day. And I can track my delivery, and I can see, I can have all the options of food I can think of. And what I'm trying to say is healthcare, true, it's traditional, it's harder to transform, it touches on patients' lives, but the change is happening. And I think the only way for us to go there is to follow the value. And I think we're doing a good job. This is the good news. The good news is that we are not completely blind to to what's going on. And if we look at where we started, so we started with the art of medicine. You know, it was just an art in the 1950s, and it had its own merits there. Then we go into evidence-based type of medicine. Then we start talking in the 2000s about health economics, and I remember all the conversations going there. It's still going on health economics, and it's a healthy topic to keep in mind. And now we talk about value-based healthcare. And again, another part of this, and the good news here is what's happening in this room. Actually, last week I was also at an International Family Medicine Conference giving actually a similar talk. So discussion on value-based healthcare is taking place. It's happening. And I think that's already the first step. And that's good. That's good. We're putting people together, we're sitting together, we're having these panels, we're hearing different opinions, and we're going to get there. So if we talk value-based healthcare, I think value-based healthcare is going to help us go in the right direction. But what we saw in this room is what is really the definition of value-based healthcare. We have, I don't know if I ask, maybe I should ask, we had a few definitions here, but I would like to ask some of the audience, what do you believe value-based healthcare is for you? So, anyone would like to have a go? What is value-based healthcare? Eddie? Sorry, I'm picking on you.
Lifetime treatment.
Yeah.
That delivers on my expectations.
Okay.
How do you look at it, of course? Plus the goal is this.
Yep. Okay, it's fine. It's clear. Anyone else wants to try? I have a shy audience today. Well, that's true. And value-based healthcare has many definitions, very different definitions. But they all go around what Jan was telling us at the end. If I want to put an equation to it, and I like equations, it's the outcomes that a system can generate, but what I would like to add to that is a precision. It's the outcome that the patient is looking for. I think that's an important differentiation. So it's really customizable, and it's really patient by patient. This is the future. Maybe at this stage we can deliver on that, but this is how it needs to be. It should be the outcome that is thought after by a patient over the total cost of providing that outcome to the system, but across the full cycle. So I think we missed that in the definition before. It's across the full care cycle. That's how we get our value, or what we define as value in value-based healthcare. And again, why this is important, so trying to bring it all together, it's important because as we face these disruptions and as we are going towards the future, we have at least one system, one guiding principle that can allow us to all work together towards that end. And what do I mean by work together? So in the old world, our current world, unfortunately in many cases, it's a fee-for-service, and also the panel mentioned that, right? If we look at the main players between medtech and pharma and distributors, payers, hospitals and physicians, you have the payers are trying and experimenting with different actuarial models to reimburse services, procedures, and products, right? These are your insurances, and we're trying, as an insurance industry, to find the best way to pay for services. Then you have the hospitals and the physicians. But the incentive there is a bit different. It's volume, it's churning, it's seeing patients, providing the best outcome for this patient. But let's face it, there's a lot of numbers being driven there. It's a profitability type of business, and the incentive is really targeted towards that. Then we come, medtech and pharma. In medtech and pharma, we are also having targets, and we have to sell products, and we have to sell and push them, and make sure, true, we have products that have better outcomes. But it's not usually the outcome that we're driving, at least typically in a fee-for-service. It's actually just trying to get the product out there and convincing the doctors and the physicians to prescribe those. So this is a very fragmented industry, and this is where the cost spiraling is coming from, right? We don't have continuous like a full circle working together. I'll give you the example of my shoulder. I mentioned I'll do that. I think I have enough time to go there. So in one of these sessions, I like doing Muay Thai, and I was doing Muay Thai and I hurt my shoulder. Did this, a bad move. That was before Christmas, so somewhere around December. And I try to go and see a doctor. The doctor prescribes, says, listen, I think you might need to do a few tests. I do a few tests. The system pays, the insurance pays, right? I go there and he tells me, well, you need some physiotherapy sessions. I do some physio sessions. I did 6 sessions, I think, at that point in time. The system pays. Still, my shoulder is not feeling better. I'm not getting any results. I'm getting more frustrated. I'm actually not being able to sleep at night. And they prescribe pills. I go, I buy the pills. The system pays. Again, still not getting better. Then, after Christmas, I come back to Dubai. I get my physio sessions going on again, and things are just getting worse. And then an MRI is prescribed. So I go and I have an MRI. Still, across all this, my frustration is increasing as an end user. The system is paying and paying and paying, and I'm not getting any better. I'm not getting any outcome. Eventually, to be honest, I kind of gave up at this stage. And what I'm doing is I'm just continuing with some physio exercises, and I'm hoping that it will just heal by itself. And it's much better if you need to know. But I haven't been exercising for almost a month now, and it's really increasing my frustration. So if I look at that example, this is a typical old world. I didn't get better. I spent 2 months trying to get my shoulder to feel better, and I went through the whole system, and the whole system paid for it, and its costs ramped up, and there's no outcome. So where do we go? Fee for performance. I think that's the word, right? That's what we're all hoping for. So if we look at the same analogy, the payers in this case, you only reimburse when you see outcomes, or at least part of the outcomes that is desired. And who defines these outcomes? Well, we need to sit together and figure out what those outcomes are per therapeutical area. The hospitals and the physicians, well, you will also focus on outcome. You will make sure that you remain competitive by generating better and better outcomes. And the hospitals or the doctors that are going to be the winners in this case are the ones that are generating those stronger outcomes. And this is what hospitals and physicians will be requiring from us, medtech and pharma, to give them the tools to support them, to provide these better outcomes. And we cannot be, for the long term, cannot be motivated by just selling. We need to share in a few things. We have to have technologies that improve outcomes. We have to participate in the healthcare delivery, and we have to be owning part of the risk. If my product, if my drug does not generate the desired outcome, I cannot be paid. I know I'm part of the medtech, but it's true, and I know I cannot continue that way, because long term I know what's going to happen, and I just showed you in the beginning what's going to happen. And if I don't adapt, and if I don't move fast enough, that disruption is going to hit me, so I better go there too. And this is the system. This is value-based healthcare that is going to allow us to all go together. That's why I love these discussions, these panels, the ability to talk here. Because if just some of us go out there and just start preaching and exploring value-based healthcare models, it doesn't have to be value-based healthcare for itself. It's just a matter of, let's look at the outcomes and the costs that are generating those outcomes, and what can we do better. It's as simple as that. And it's happening, and it's happening fast. And these are some data. I love data because it tells you that things are not theoretical, right? If it's a study done by the Change Healthcare, and I have to say the data is more US driven. We have an issue with data in this region, but like I said, we're working towards that. In 2015, 59% of reimbursement was actually a fee for service. So all the rest was actually fee for performance. 51.7% in 2016, dropped to 37% in 2018, and it's predicted to be only 25% fee for service. So everything else, 75%, is going to be fee for outcome. So the world is going there. And we have a few examples of value-based healthcare already being implemented in the world. A lot of them in the US, like you see here with the Cleveland Clinic, the Kaiser Permanente, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, CMS. So I'm not going to go through these, it takes a lot of time. Each one of them deserves a whole day, actually. But also you have in Norway, in Singapore, India, Germany, And we have an example in the Netherlands as an electronic that I'm going to be happy to share with you in a quick nutshell, but it kind of illustrates how this is possible in real life. And we'll talk a bit about Diabeter. Diabeter is actually the winner of the Best Value-Based Healthcare Award in 2017, and it actually got in 2018 the award for patient centricity. So it puts a bit these concepts into practice, and I'll just share with you a quick video so you get an idea of it, and then we'll talk more about Diabeter and take some questions.
Diabeter is what we call an integrated practice unit, and we can take our own decisions, how many nurses, what we do with technology, in order to provide the best possible care to add most value for our patients. Diabeter is what we call an integrated practice unit, and we can take our own decisions, how many nurses, what we do with technology, in order to provide the best possible care to add most value for our patients.
With the doctors, the nurses, the dietitian, psychologist, I think that's the power of the team.
It has all the services and all the benefits of a good hospital in the Netherlands, but it doesn't feel like a hospital for the children and also for their parents.
Here I know they can help me, and I know that they will do everything they can do for you to help you with it.
In between the visits, they use the system to upload their devices to get a report back in 5 minutes, and you can see how you improve and how you deteriorate. And offering this kind of IT improves the care tremendously.
In these days, we see them grow. Their weight is coming back, but also they grow in their confidence. They know how to deal with this disease, and that's a very, very beautiful job. They give you the trust that you can manage your own disease and that you're not alone.
The way we do it, the value-based healthcare environment, it means that better outcomes result in better lives, in longer lives, and in healthier lives. And that's a very good feeling.
Help. So what you saw here is a glimpse. We have actually, you can go on YouTube and you can just type in Diabeter and you see a lot of videos on Diabeter, and there's an extended version of this which explains exactly why it's value-based healthcare and how it maps to value-based healthcare. But there's quite a few points here that I would like to focus on, and they've all been discussed in the panel, which is why I love this panel. I mean, I couldn't have planned it even if I wanted to. So we talked about data. So there's a lot of data being accumulated in Diabeter. It's a different patient experience. So as you notice, this is not a clinic. It's not a typical clinic. There's no real white coat. It's a completely different environment. It's a place where patients feel very comfortable, like going to a club or something, a club, a healthcare club, right? A fitness club. And there is technology at the bottom of everything. So again, we talk about the disruption that is coming and the ability of technology to take us in the right direction. So technology, there's a V-Care concept that actually allows all the data sharing and allows all this remote monitoring that we're talking about. And what I also love about this is this whole thing started with two doctors. So it's Dr. Henkian, Dr. Hengies that you saw as founders in the beginning. They were just frustrated with the system, and they weren't very happy on how type 1 diabetes was being treated. And they, 11 years ago actually, started thinking of a solution. And they spinned off, started their own thing, started the clinic, and it kept evolving and evolving until it got to this state. And 3 years ago as Medtronic, we thought that's a great idea. That's a great value-based healthcare model. So we've acquired Diabeter and we're expanding it globally. And I'm very happy to announce actually that we have our first Diabeter in the region, which is being implemented in Saudi Arabia with the Ministry of Health. So there's a big project actually going on with the Ministry of Health, going and implementing Diabeter, and we have very advanced talks also here in the UAE. So this will be coming, which is great because then we get local data, and as you've seen before, more data, better outcomes, more data, better outcomes, and then we can compare globally. So you become part of the global network of the Diabetes 360 clinics. So this is a bit what Michael Porter had defined as the 6 pillars of value-based healthcare, and Diabeter basically maps exactly around those. You organize into an integrated practice unit. That's a very important point I missed to mention. So Diabeter only focuses on type 1 patients and at a specific age group, which is basically children and young adults. We do have adults as part of the system, but that's not the main focus. The main focus is children and young adults, but obviously when they become adults, we don't tell them you need to leave. So we continue taking care of them because there's no one else for them to go to actually once they're used to the system. And the dietitian, the nurse, the psychologist, even the finance person, the HR person in the back office, the IT person, everyone is just breathing, day in, day out, diabetes type 1 and focusing on that. That's what we mean by integrated practice unit. At the beginning of the day, we just go over the patient roster that's going to come that day, and they discuss patient by patient. Again, going back to what I mentioned before, in value-based healthcare is actually outcomes per patient. So this brings me to the next point. It measures outcomes and costs on a patient per patient basis. So we've done this whole work with Harvard professor Dr. Kaplan, and we've worked on a activity-based costing of a sort to actually cost minute per minute how much the patient would cost us at each part of the care continuum. So we know at any point in time where the patient is and how much they're costing. And so we know that patient Michael, for example, spent 10 minutes with the doctor, 20 minutes with the dietitian, etc. And so we know what outcomes when we start managing HbA1c, complication reductions, and things like that. And then we divide it over the cost that it took us to actually get Michael to that state, which leads me to the bundled payments idea. So we don't get paid for service. We get paid per outcome. So what we say is, we'll just take a bundled fee, a fee per patient for the whole year. So like I mentioned, a bit like a subscription. And once the patient is there, we take care of everything else. Like you as a system, if you're a payer, you don't pay anything. You just pay that fee per patient, which is usually equal or lower than the cost that the current system is paying, which is why actually in the Netherlands today we have a big contract for 10 years actually with Silver Clause that pays on outcomes, and basically all the patients from that insurance are transferred to Diabeter because they figure out that it costs them much less on the long term and you get much better outcomes. And we're sharing risk, so if we don't deliver on certain KPIs, we don't get paid. We cover our basic costs obviously for certain things, and then we don't get paid. But if we do better than what we were expected to do, then we get a slight bonus. But still, overall, the system is much better. You're immediately saving costs and saving a lot on future complications. And as I don't remember who mentioned it, but one of the doctors joining us here in the panel mentioned that the cost of complications cost you much more than what you expect, what you are actually paying today. Integrated care across deliveries. So this is the point about data that I mentioned. So wherever the patient goes at any Diabeter, their file is theirs. Also, they mentioned that Dr. Michel, I think, also said that it's very, elusive to him that he can get all the data and transfer money across countries, but he cannot get data for his patients from another place. In diabetes, whenever the patient walks in, their data is there in whatever facility they walk into. And my dream is that in the future, when we launch the facilities in the Middle East, the patient is in London and they walk into a diabetes, they'll have their file. And if they walk into Netherlands, they'll have their files. So hopefully we will also get there. Across geographies is self-explanatory, is what I mentioned about the global expansion. And everything is enabled by IT, and I think that's really the backbone of it. As an example, in the video you saw, in diabetes, if a patient basically uploads their data, either through an automatic upload if they have the device for that, or if they have to manually upload the data, within 5 minutes they get a report back saying, well, you're better, you're doing this, you're doing that, you should adjust your insulin, etc. And if that requires some kind of a technical intervention, there's a 24/7 support, so there's a nurse and a doctor on call 24/7. They contact that patient, they have all the data, and then they tell them, well, you need to do this or that, and then if it's an escalation, the doctor gets in touch, and if there's a need, an ambulance is dispatched. So that's it, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. So it's a value-based e-health platform. It's a unique patient experience, as we mentioned before, and it's an integrated practice unit. So for once, you can see value-based healthcare in practice. And I think what drives this success is the fact that we have been very focused on a therapeutical area or a disease, type 1, children, have been doing it for a long time, took a lot of, I would say, risks and bets, and have been trying to educate and talk to payers and governments and explain to them why this makes sense. And we're putting ourselves out there. We're sharing risk, to be honest, which is very difficult to even convince our company internally to commit to. If you need more information, you can see really how patients are impacted with diabetes. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but there's video, like I mentioned, online. But you know, this lady really had the best vacation in her life. She never had a proper vacation because of her diabetes. The lady here, you know, with her father, they could not really live a normal life, but then she learned how to self-care, and this is basically driven by the data that is constantly fed into the system. And for this young gentleman here, he wasn't very happy at school, and no one was giving him really caring about his specific problems, but the psychologist at diabetes understood the problem, repeated to the care team, and the care team designed a very bespoke treatment plan for this patient, and so he got his personalized care. So what I want to leave you with is this question. Okay, we've heard about this, and we know it's complex, we know there's a lot of things happening, but I'm sure that each one of us can have a role in driving us towards value-based healthcare. Like I said, it might not be the best answer, it might not be the perfect solution, but it's the one system today that we can all agree on and can give us a common objective to work towards. So I ask you, how can you be the change versus eventually suffer from it and become obsolete or disrupted? That's the question I'll leave to you, and thank you very much. I'm open for questions if you have any questions.
I can start. So obviously everybody's convinced, from payer to providers to the medtech company, that this is the right way going forward. Yet
we're not moving fast enough. There must be something preventing us from moving fast enough.
Absolutely.
According to you, what are the top 3 challenges that we're facing?
First of all, thank you for asking the question. That's a brilliant question. And there's a few things, but the top 3, I would say, 1, we are not speaking the same language. So first, you need to set up the platform where everyone speaks the same language, and I think forums like these are helping us go towards that, right? I mean, certain companies and certain, let's say, payers and certain governments are a bit more advanced in their thinking towards value-based healthcare than others. So we need to start having a level playing field so we can start to have this discussion, and I think this is what's happening with the education that goes around. The other thing is the inherent, I'm gonna have to say that, but it's the inherent slowness in the system, because we are big companies, big machinery, if we're talking about the medtech and the pharmas, right? And governments, huge, right? And so hospitals, they're used to doing things in a certain way, and they have a whole list of patients that are, always there and used to a certain level of care, and then you have the regulators. So it's a heavy machinery, and to drive change across a heavy machinery takes a lot of time, which is where, by the way, and that's a subject of another talk, which is why I believe that a lot of change will come from the little companies and the little, quick entrepreneurs that are coming up with interesting things. And the third thing is we need to be, and I think it's linked to the second one, we need to be much more agile, and by agility I mean we need to basically carve out and have maybe dedicated teams, a bit like what Diameter did. Diameter succeeded because these two doctors went out of the system and created their own thing. And I think we need to also do a bit more of that in the current environment. Otherwise, we will be very much stifled with our day-to-day, and we will not be able to go towards these models. So these three things I think we need to work on to get to value-based healthcare. Actually, one more thing, I think the governments can drive a lot. So if I have a government, and I believe this is what we're seeing here, to be honest, between the UAE and Saudi, I have to say, we are leapfrogging, and that's a great thing, because we don't need to repeat the same mistakes of the West and incur so many high costs in our systems before we change. So I think that's good, because things like value-based healthcare or generative technology allows you to leapfrog and jump towards a change. So hopefully you go there. Thank you for your question. Oh, okay, I'm asked to finish, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. There are 3 speakers standing in between you and lunch. I feel sorry for all 3 of them. We got off to a little bit of a late start this morning, so I would ask the next 3 speakers not to rush through the presentations, but just be sensitive to time, because we're kind of running about 45 minutes behind. So with that said, I would like to wish good luck to our next speaker, Malek who will be speaking on harnessing the power of digital health, enhanced patient experiences, and superior clinical outcomes. Malek?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry that we're taking away from your lunchtime, but I hope I can get everyone's attention for this one. Thank you for having me here, and I'd like to, obviously, we've spoken a lot about digital health since this morning, and my focus is going to be from a health IT perspective and how what we believe we can do to enable some of these changes that we're all so much looking forward to, and enhancing both the patient experience and the clinical healthcare delivery in the ecosystem. So, just like my friend Michael just before me talked about a couple of scenarios that we think are for the future, but they're happening today. I have 3 individuals here on the slide. The first one is a lady that is a young woman in Saudi Arabia that is dealing with type 2 diabetes, who is regularly monitoring her blood sugar level and gets a proactive message on her cell phone telling her that there has been a rise detected in her blood sugar level, and that today she should inject 6 units of rapid-acting insulin to better manage that. The other gentleman is a young boy.